Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is Franz Sidney. So welcome to Create with Franz. Today, with our guest all the way from Texas, and her name is Elena Sarango-Muniz. Did I correctly pronounce this name today?
Beautiful, perfect, Franz.
Woohoo! So I'm so glad to have you, Elena. So thank you so much for coming. And well, I thank you before everyone knows, but I know already what you're going to say. So this is so exciting because today we have a special topic, which is for you guys working as CEOs and working in big corporate jobs when you have board meetings, board directors, and lots of people around, or even a small company with a boss. There has to be a boss. It could even be in home. But today we're really focusing on emotional intelligence and how to weave that into your leadership. So, quite a great topic. And I love it. You know why? Because I think that companies can do a lot better when everyone has developed emotional intelligence. And years ago, I went to a seminar, and the CEO of a local British company said a few words that I always remember since 30 years ago. He said, that when people get a job in any company, they will only stay if they have three things: they love a boss, they love a job, and they love the money. If one of them isn't there, they will eventually go, unless they're desperate because they can't get anything else. So they had to love a boss as well. And I thought, ah. And so when you are in a leadership and you're working and you realize you're very good, you're skilled, you have business capacity, but you have this really high turnover, people don't stay. But your salaries are good and the bonus is good. Then you start to now hold on a minute. The job is good, the salary is good. Why are we going? And then there's a time to get a mirror and say, could it be me or my board of directors? Could it be the managers that we are not very much listening? Could it be that we as a group, we are provoking this problem because we're not attuned to the emotion of the others? Therefore, we are overreacting or not listening. What could it be? And I'm really no expert in corporate, so I thought I would get the expert because Elena is a leadership and executive coach working with business executive most of the times. And so, did you want to give us some ideas of what happens to your typical client when they are lacking emotional intelligence? And this is coming back to them to haunt them in their job.
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you. I'm excited to be here in your podcast, Franz. Thank you for inviting me. As you said, I've worked pretty much all my life in HR leadership roles in corporate environments, international corporate environments. So I've worked with those leaders for so many years. I've met so many of them from different parts of the world where they actually, yes, they get promoted all the way to C-level, and they get promoted because of their record, because of their experience, because of their technical skills. But they don't realize that those skills will not serve them anymore when they get to the top. When you get to the top, you are a leader that needs to inspire and influence your teams, especially if it's a big organization, even small ones. So a lot of my clients come to me when they have hit that wall, when they have hit that peak that looks very foggy, and they either receive feedback from someone,
Hmm.
they start seeing low engagement, they start seeing those surveys with low scores, or just turnover being really high. And that's when they realize, okay, what's going on here? There's something that I need to do. And that's when I come in. I help them actually tap into their own skills. These are smart people, right, that have gotten there. And I believe every human has in them that potential to develop, to bring up that emotional intelligence they have within, to be able to create a better environment, to create a better environment, not just for them, but for their teams. And in that way, to transform the culture of their organizations.
That's amazing. And I think, you can really tell if a company is growing. Sometimes it's just people adore what the boss does, how much, he really loves, he's got his passion, his vision, but he's also interacting with them in such a way that they can be inspired and feel like they're all working towards a mission. And this common mission shouldn't be coming from the top, should be coming from, everyone, and everyone is engaged in that. And this doesn't always happen, because sometimes we are not able to understand our own emotions and differentiate our emotions from the one of the other people. So we think just because we're excited about something, everyone is. But sometimes we have not really explained, we have not listened. They might have from a lower levels, I don't want to say lower, but the people who are making the project and producing the artifact, they're having the problems. We're not sometimes listening because we're not empathizing. Oh, get on with it. And we're not communicating properly sometimes. And sometimes we're not just socially aware. There are some bosses, like think Elon Musk, who are neurodivergent as well. So it's hard for them to be that social, that open. And so if you cannot connect to your own feelings and to cope with them, how can you connect with the other people feeling and understand them? So that's going to be an issue, right? So how do you turn around the situation that could become very sour because you're losing this huge amount of talent? They use your company as a stepping stone. They go to higher places later on because they didn't like your leadership. So how do you deal with that?
Yes, and you just mentioned the two main components of emotional intelligence. We call it EQ, which is very different from cognitive intelligence, right? And one thing I want to make sure your audience understands is that with cognitive intelligence, or IQ, you peak that development up to probably 17 years old of age. And EQ is a skill. Yeah, and EQ is something that you can actually continue developing all the way until the day you go. And that's what I like about EQ and embedding EQ in leadership development, because no matter how experienced and knowledgeable you are, you can continue improving. I continue improving my EQ each day. So to answer your question, there's many things that we work on with my clients when it comes to developing EQ, specifically to what you said, which is to, first of all, notice, okay, there's something that needs to change. I notice that something is not working. That's already noticing your emotions. So emotions are major important information for any individual, and that starts with our thoughts. So we start thinking, right, okay, there's something not clicking here. That translates into some kind of emotion. I feel uncomfortable, I feel uneasy, somebody's giving me feedback, I'm not feeling really happy about it, or I am disappointed. Or even if it's good, amazing feedback, you have an emotion of exhilaration. But if you don't take those emotions, interpret them, actually, you can feel them in your body too. If you're angry, you start getting red, you start getting sweaty palms, you start getting jittery, right? So if you are not paying attention to those emotions, then the information is lost. As I said, emotions are information. So when I work with the leaders, we start by recognizing that there's something happening, acknowledging that there's an emotion or a series of emotions that we're going through. You've got to be able to pause and name them, identify them, such as, oh yeah, I'm feeling angry. Oh yeah, I can feel something weird in my body that is making me feel uneasy. And that is called self-awareness, when you're able to really pause and think, okay, this is what I'm feeling, acknowledging how you're feeling. And then you are able to also recognize what's happening in the person or the people in front of you. They're not feeling excited. They're actually showing discontent. People are leaving the organization. So that dynamic between what I'm noticing in myself and what I'm noticing in others is the first step. Obviously, there are tools that we use to be able to do that. I use assessments to recognize where the different EQ gaps exist in somebody. But if there's no assessment, a self-assessment of themselves is good enough. Okay. But I would say the first step is really pausing. I love to use pause, and there's many tools that we can use to pause, such as just saying stop to yourself, or having a sticky note on your computer that says stop as soon as you recognize that, right? Um, Sometimes it's just actually pinching yourself somewhere in your body and say, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And you pinch yourself, and that makes you realize, okay, I need to do something about this. And then you identify the emotion. And then you bring in a mindfulness tool, for example, like breathing. So I work with my clients a lot by using the breath as a way to calm the nervous system and change the way we are reacting to the situation. It could be, in your case, Franz, I know you live in this beautiful, environment to where it could be just looking outside the window and looking at nature. Or if you have so leaders, a lot of my leaders are able to walk around the building and get fresh air. It
Yeah.
is just to add that pause into the moment, so there is a space between the reaction and the action. Does that make sense?
Yes, awareness, the part of mindfulness, really knowing what's going on instead of boom, jumping on the next thing emotionally and then not realizing, yeah, what was going to be, because the consequences can be very serious. This is not just a family with negative stress and whatever, this is a company. So the whole production system, think about health and safety, for example. If people are demotivated, they're more likely to break their old protocols and not doing exactly right and hurt themselves, injure somebody else, or produce maybe a product that is not very good because they don't really care. Why they don't care? Because up there, somebody is not really listening to them. And we can see that in lots of companies that are using people and overusing them and not paying them properly and not being listening to their needs. So people can hardly scratch the surface, feeding themselves, etc. But the bosses are not listening. They're making millions. So the emotional intelligence of these big bosses, where people are used, we call in Italian, I think there is I don't even remember the Italian word for that. Yeah, sfruttare, which is fruttare meant to make something fruitful, but sfruttare is when you go overboard and you really squeeze a person, so they're giving it all to just be able to eat every month. And how much are these people going to care about your company?
Right. And
Because they're not
and
listening.
exactly. And there's so many leaders like that. I have clients that come to me because they've been given that feedback. You're not listening to me, so why even want to bother, talking to you, giving you my ideas?
Yes.
And one of the principles in developing emotional intelligence skills is that the leader needs to understand, and I help them with that the way you interpret the world, your world, is not the same as the way the person in front of you interprets the world. If you understand that concept, and I go through this series of steps for them to understand that concept, that's when they're like, oh, that's why we don't see eye to eye. That's why I think they're wasting my time. A lot of my clients come to me and saying, people waste my time. I don't have time for this stuff. I don't have time to be listening to people telling me about their ideas that I already know are not going to work. And I'm like, how do you know they're not going to work? Have you actually listened to the whole idea? Have you actually really listen to it rather than thinking, what am I going to say? How am I going to get rid of this person in front of me? How do I cut them off? How do I cut this conversation short? Instead of that, give them really the time and understand what they're saying and how they're what is that filter that you're using to interpret their world. And the only way you can understand how they interpret the world is to get to know them better. And when you get to know them better, you build trust with your employees. And when there's trust, the connection is stronger. Innovation flourishes. Ideas become cohesive. Values align. Goals show up from anywhere. So it's the beauty of really respecting the individual in front of you and trying to understand where they come from.
That's an excellent thing. And I have 2 points for that I wanted to add. One is that this is so NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, where you learn that the map of a city is not the city. Every person has their own map of the world, their own map of what life is and what life is about. And this is not the map that other people have. So I might have a map that I'm going to become a millionaire, retire in South Africa in 2030, but another person might have the idea of traveling the world on a bike, which is what my son is doing, and never stop anywhere because he likes traveling. So that's my map. So if I try to apply my thinking to his map, it doesn't work, does it? And so everyone has a different way of looking at things, depending also possible trauma, neglect, abuse they've had in their life, or being very wealthy when they grew up instead of being poor or even homeless. So we cannot always sympathize with the others because we haven't been in their position, you know. And it's so important to listen and to stop. So thank you for that. And before you get to the other point, I wanted to quickly mention there is a Facebook video, reel something. And in that one, last year, we saw quite a few of, I don't know what it is, a series. And it was like the boss, the undercover boss, I think it's called. And there are these big companies in the States, and the big boss goes there with like a very fake 70 look, with wigs and something, and they go into their company and into, of course, huge companies, you know, McDonald's or whatever, and to see how the people are actually doing. And when we actually listen to them and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that your machine to take the orders doesn't actually work. It's so confusing. I didn't realize you're here, your parents trouble at home, you don't have money, you're traveling 8 hours to do this. They didn't realize because they never listened before. They were not interested. And now, when they understand the situation, they listen to the ideas of the people who are working there, who know what can be done to be better. And then they can give and gift. It works for them for advertising, but also it's so touching to see they pay for the whole university for some of their employees because they're finally connecting. And here is, in my opinion, the emotional intelligence saying, okay, it isn't just about profit here. These are people. We're working as a team. And so I really like your point that if we stop going to our own, you know, profit, we stop listening to the people working for us. They know the problems. Why don't we stop and listen? And then they get validated. And that is amazing for their own mental health.
Exactly. Employees want to be listened to. They want to be understood. When you feel like you are being understood, your sense of belonging exponentially increases. And as you know, Franz, the sense of belonging is one of the very basic needs of an individual. And when leaders are able to activate that and create an environment, we call it psychological safety, we call it a community, you know, some people, I like to call it my tribe. When we have that sense of community, then everybody starts supporting each other, listening to each other, and thriving together. And the leader benefits because the leader is not only depending on themselves and their own knowledge and experience. Now they have a really trusting, thriving community of team members that will help them see what they cannot see, potential opportunities that they're not able to see to solve whatever problem it is. So yeah, bringing the team that way is crucial for leaders, especially those at the top where they think they need to have all the answers. I'm a CEO, I'm a senior vice president, I'm a board of directors member. I
Yeah.
need to know all the answers, which is not true.
Yeah. And it's true because sometimes we organize things in very complicated systems, but then the system is not working. So down the scale of the hierarchy, the people down below say, no, this machine doesn't work. This machine is not working fine. This one, the system is so complicated that we just skip the steps. This other one is dangerous. And the manager's like, we're not listening. And if you just streamline and listen to them and simplify, people are going to be able to actually do their job properly. And there's going to be more profit in the end because people are happy. We're going to stay there. You don't have to retrain new people all the time. The people there, they can get better. And it's just a cycle. If they like it so much, they're going to get their relatives, their friends to apply for the job. So it's going to be continuous new blood coming as well when they retire. Oh yeah, just go there. I've been there 40 years. I love it. And that's what we don't understand. It's a good investment when we love the company as a unit instead of just thinking I'm going to make profit out of you guys. It's just huge.
Absolutely. Yes. And there's a difference between loyalty and, being committed to the organization in a way that your values are aligned with the values of the organization, which is another way of working with my clients. We look at the values as the foundation for the alignment between the employee, the leader, and the organization. If there's no alignment, they don't have to be exactly the same, but there has to be some common ground to where the employee feels that they're working towards a purpose that is a common purpose with the organization. And there are employees, because I've seen them throughout my entire career, where they are loyal, but they're loyal without the commitment and the passion, and they're just there to retire. And I just want to make it to 65 to 70 to be able to retire, which affects actually the engagement and the productivity of the team. The team can see that. They notice those individuals.
Yeah, I have some friends. One of my friends in Italy went to Sardinia last year, and she's worked for the tax office all her life. And she has always been a very smart, warm person, loving. But I always remember her words before we went. She said, "I cannot wait to retire from this job and go on holiday." And people shouldn't be that. People should be like, "It's gonna be so tough to lose this job, but yeah, when I retire, I'm gonna do different stuff." And knowing that you can't wait to get out, it makes you wonder.
It does. It does. And I've had some of those clients too, to where they finally say, I can't take it anymore. This is not healthy for me nor for my family. I don't think I can wait until 65. I need to do something about it. And talking about self-awareness, just that first step is huge. Being able to say something needs to change. And I always tell my, people when I present, change is inevitable. Change is going to come to you. Are you going to embrace it? Are you going to take change as a way to grow? And as I said at the beginning, emotional intelligence is all about evolving, developing as an individual, as a human being. So when those type of clients come to me, I say, I'm so proud of you. This is the first step. Yes, you can change your destiny. You don't have to be miserable for the next 5 years. There are things that you can do and change.
Yeah, that's great. So we need to be present and understanding what's going on, separate our emotion one of the others, understanding our feelings, their feelings. We need constructive feedback from the other people. Maybe keeping a journal could be something useful to understand how we overreacted to something or turn a blind eye to something else. And also understanding what makes people happy, what makes the boss happy could possibly be not what makes the employers happy. So maybe you give them a bonus if they don't want
Absolutely. I talk about the curiosity catalyst. Every leader needs to be a curiosity catalyst. And that means being curious about the person in front of you, right? Asking questions rather than you giving advice or saying what you think. First, really dig deep and try to understand the individual. Try to get to, their family, understand their personal environment. I know a lot of leaders are scared to go to the personal side of things, but I'm telling you, I'm a recovering HR executive, so I know that showing interest in wanting to get to know the person in front of you better will never get you in trouble. It's what you do with that information that can get you in trouble. But if it is genuinely to really understand and connect at a deeper level with that individual, then that helps you with goals, that helps you with how to guide them on which career track to take. Some people never want to be a leader of teams, they want to be individual contributors. The leader
Mm.
should know that, and they should know why, because sometimes the why behind the no, I never want to do
Mm.
that is fear. And the leader has the power to disintegrate that fear in the individual by giving them support, by giving them understanding, and by being there for them. I always tell everybody there's two forces in life. I learned this from Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you're familiar. My favorite author, unfortunately deceased already. He said there's only two forces in life: love and fear. You either do things towards love or you do things towards fear. Everything in between, you can self-regulate, right? And
Ah,
to me, that's been my guidance for a long time.
yeah, and fear is a terrible thing to have when you go to work and you fear disappointing, you fear being criticized, you fear making a mistake, and you fear, oh, I cannot ask for holidays, I cannot give this idea because nobody is going to listen to me. So yeah, it's a great thing to implement on both sides. Also, people working for the boss should also have this emotional intelligence woven. You're not just there to build your own capacity and your own income. You're there to help somebody to go to their mission. So if you don't agree with the mission and ethos of a company, why are you working for them? So eventually you're gonna hate the job, hate the boss, and everyone else. So these are great tips. And I wanted to ask also a last question about self-regulation. There are
Mhm,
some people that have problem with difficult emotions.
mhm.
And so in 20 seconds, how do we build a tolerance to distress and anxiety, which I'm sure a high level is quite high? How do we do that?
Yes, and that's one of the main components of emotional intelligence, and it takes practice. There are things that you can do very simple to self-regulate or develop emotional flexibility. I have a talk just about this topic. But the thing is, you got to practice them because you're not going to see the results right away. But self-regulating is really understanding what your emotion is, where you are at that moment, and create that pause, embrace silence, even when you're having a difficult conversation and you start noticing those emotions surfacing. Take a deep breath and you can say, excuse me, give me a moment. Or, like I've done before, I can't continue this conversation right now. May we reconvene at a later date?
Mm.
And I've gone back to my office. I've journaled. I've said, what I just felt. How do I need to change the way I feel? What can I say to feel better? And that's when empathy comes in. When you start thinking optimistically, when you're positive about the outcome, you think about the outcome of the conversation or the situation rather than the emotions at the moment. Okay, I'm going to think that this person is actually, they don't know how to handle this situation. They're nervous that they're going to tell me the wrong thing or that they're going to do something stupid. So I'm going to assume that they want the best out of this. Okay, so I'm going to put myself in their shoes and they're afraid. So let me just help them. So then you go back to the situation, you self-regulated and you take the conversation by thinking on the outcomes. Okay, let's think about what do we want to get out of this conversation or of this situation? Oh, we want to be able to build this or create this. And that's how you those are some of the tips to self-regulate, is to pause, to journal, breathe, ask for feedback. Maybe, do you notice, how do you think I should be? So asking for feedback as well is good. But even your own feedback by journaling, there's scientific proof that by you writing things down, your brain is able to process things better. Don't type it, just write. My clients all have a notebook, right? I tell them, have a notebook tonight. You're going to be, and I give them prompts, what to write on that notebook, what questions you can ask yourself. So those are some ways to self-regulate.
And I put, how would you say, the seal of truth on this, because I do watch Huberman Lab, and there's Andrew Huberman, who is
Huberman Lab,
teacher of neuroscience.
Oh yeah.
And he actually had a whole episode on that, and he talked about journaling and its protocol, and he had evidence-based research showing that when we're writing with a pen is a completely different neuroplastic event happening, which is not the same as typing. It's just another thing. The brain has to do kinesthetic activities to learn certain things and to have its growth mindset as well. So just writing on a piece of paper, scribbly something, is always better than writing on the computer. For some reason, our brain works better, maybe because we have to use our hands more. I don't know. I'll leave it to the scientists to discuss why. But certainly, the things that we ignore are always the most important. To stop, to think, to breathe, to walk in nature, to relax it, to even get a pen and a pencil and scribble something, then just get it out of the chest, get it off. And sometimes that calming down for a minute and asking the other person, what is important for you in this?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you so adamant? And sometimes we seem to be in an opposite polarity, but both of them have a value that is very dear to them, and that is what is counting. The actions that we take are based upon our values, whether we know it or not. We wouldn't take an action if we didn't think that was good for us, right? And so when the boss understands why their values are different from the others, a lot of things will start to just fall into place. Is that, we have different values.
Mm-hmm.
And
the values are, our non-negotiables. Yeah, these are the non-negotiables that each individual has.
Values are different from everyone, and we still can work with a company even if we don't align with all the values. But if we completely disengage with those values that are the core part of a company, then it's time to look for another job, because we as humans cannot go against what we believe is true. We cannot live a life that is not aligned with our values. There will be a point where we totally crash inside. We have an emotional breakdown because we are going against our nature. Our nature and our values are very much together. So important. Yeah.
Yes.
We could be talking forever, but our time is over as usual. But you know what? I'm really thankful we had this chat, because it was so good to have a little idea what happens in those headquarters and at the ground floor when everybody's working. What are these interactions, and how we can improve this emotional intelligence level, making it higher and higher until we can reach the optimal balance and harmony that makes a company be exciting and grow and make the life of everyone better, because that's what we want. We want everyone to be happy, not just the boss. So do you agree, right? Everyone.
Absolutely. It becomes a healthy culture.
I love that. Yeah. And there are people that absolutely love their company. I won't make names, but yes. Well, so Elena Sarango-Muniz. So did I say this well this time? Woo-hoo.
It was perfect, as the first time you said it.
I'm very excited to have had a chance today to talk to you. And so thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Franz. It was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, it was good. And we learned a lot. And I hope you guys listen to this episode also have something to take home that can help you today to maybe consider a new position where you are, or to change in the way you treat others at work, your peers, or to change the way you work with the people who are employed by you. You're a big boss, and maybe it's time to look back and say, that's why people are not doing anything, because they don't believe in that. What can we do about it? And most times we are intelligent enough to be able, with a little bit of humility, to take care of that. So thank you for this. Please share these episodes with all your friends. If you want to subscribe, that's excellent. And if you want to leave a review for us, that's great. And you will be able to check out all the details on how to contact Elena for any advice on this important topic of emotional intelligence and more by looking at the links that I'm going to put in the description of the episodes. So thank you so much, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.